Hi, I'm Millie. I am autistic and ADHD. I make videos about my experience of being neurodivergent. I am also a part-time AAC user. AAC means augmentative and alternative communication methods, which is difficult to say out loud, so AAC for short. I have a previous video about why I use AAC and how it helps. I will link that video below.
Before I get into the demo of the AAC app I mentioned, I'm going to switch to speaking out loud. So I use AAC part-time, so I have the privilege of being able to still speak out loud a lot of the time. And I just wanted to start this by saying that not everybody has that privilege, and because I'm able to speak out loud, it makes it a bit easier to make YouTube videos like this. But unfortunately, people are more likely to listen to me. It's easier to get people to listen to me when I can speak out loud. And this just means it gives me an unfair advantage to speak my opinion, and other people who can't speak out loud and need to use something like this a lot of the time, unfortunately, people might not be as patient with them and their voices get heard less. So I just wanted to start by saying, please be patient with me if I'm using it, or if you see anybody using an app like this, or something like communication cards, or hand signs, or anything like that, because their voice and what they have to say is just as important as mine. This is a little demo, if you saw me day to day using the app, kind of the speed of conversation. So I'll demo this later. Some common phrases I have set in the app, but if I'm just saying something custom, it's kind of like this. I have to type.
All forms of communication are valid.
Yeah, just like that. So I've put chapter markers on the video below if you want to skip to the demo and the review. And what I'm going to show in this video is the different versions that the speech assistant app comes in, and I'll do a demo of what the app looks like and all the features it has, and I'll go through a bunch of the settings as well. So depending on what part you're interested, you could go to that. Or if you could watch the whole thing, that'd be great too. And just so you know, I'm not an expert. I just really love this app. It's honestly been life-changing. I was trying to find something like this for a long time, and I tried lots of different apps, and this is the one I just like the best. And I get a lot of questions about it when I'm using it, so I wanted to share it with people. I just wanted to say as well, this video is not sponsored in any way at all. I paid for Speech Assistant, the app, with my own money, and I am not connected to the software developers that make this app at all. Again, it was just something I really like and I use almost every day. So before I show off the app, I will just talk a bit about how I use it. So again, I use AAC part-time, and mostly when I'm out of the house or with new people, kind of in high anxiety situations, or just when my anxiety is generally out of control, when I'm feeling overwhelmed or shut down. In some ways, sometimes it's to avoid getting to the point of a shutdown and not being able to speak at all, or my speech being all jumbled, or not being able to speak loud enough, and then people can't understand me. So in a way, I like sometimes I'm using it proactively, and then other times it's more like an emergency or yeah, I've just really gotten to the point where that's the only way I can really communicate effectively because I can't speak out loud anymore. And I'm still planning as well on making an update to my previous AAC video where I talk about now that I've been using it for about a year, I think, like daily pretty much, then yeah, I've just had so many interesting experiences and learned a lot about using it. So I'll make a video sharing those experiences at some point as well. So yeah, watch out for that one as well. So another thing that's great is that this app comes in so many versions. The only one I think that I haven't tried is the one that's on the Google Play Store for Android. So they seemingly all look and function essentially the same. So when I demo it, I'll be actually showing it on the Mac because it's easier to see what I'm doing because I can show the cursor moving around. But from my experience, they all look and function basically exactly the same. So the one I usually use daily is, I use an iPhone personally, and so I'm using the iOS version. And I noticed there's even a special second iOS version for people who interact with their phone because they can't use their hands, that kind of thing. So the like Apple on the phone or any phone should have this really for the accessibility settings, has the ability to control the phone with a switch, which just means like any device that can be clicked, like a foot switch or other kind of things. So that's another accessibility option. So they have a specific option that's geared towards controlling it with a switch, but otherwise everybody just would use the regular version if you're typing like you normally would a text message, or you can press buttons on the screen, which I'll show you later. That's just the regular version. So I use the iOS version. I also use the iPad OS version on my iPad, and that's like exactly the same, just bigger, for the iPad. And there's also an Apple Watch version, which is really neat. I like that I covered all the bases. To me, it's more of a novelty. Like I like that it's on there, but again, the issue, not with the software, it's it functions. It's just the same issue that I have with the phone. That's again not the software's fault. It's just that the overall phone volume is too low. So on the Apple Watch, it's really much too low for most anything. And now I'll show you a demo of what the app looks like and all of its features and how I use it and some of the settings as well. All right, so let's take a look at Speech Assistant, the actual app. I have it on the right here. I have it running on my Mac, mainly that way I can have a nice big cursor. That's a nice thing you can do as well for accessibility in the accessibility settings. On a Mac, you can change the cursor size if you want. It's nothing related to this app, but just in case for you as well, the cursors are small and you just want to change the color for fun or something. But anyways, made the cursor bigger so you can see what I'm pointing out. I hope that helps. And yeah, I'll talk about why I like this app more than other ones I tried later, much, much, much more. But, I think the developers did a great job of balancing having it have lots of customizability. So it's very adaptable for different use cases, different people's needs, what works for them. And but I also feel like, you can kind of just pick this up and use it in its basic setup very quickly. The main thing you'll see here when you install it, I have custom categories. So these are categories of phrases, and then these are custom phrases I've put in here, kind of stuff that works for me and colors that work for me and stuff. But yeah, I think it's pretty intuitive. I feel like it is anyways. But yeah, and again, I'm not an expert. I just really like this app, and I'm trying to like use all the different features. And but yeah, if anybody in the comments shows anything useful that I might be missing or sees a mistake I made, please let me know. I always want to learn more about the app. So yeah, so just going to start from the top to the bottom. I'm running this on my Mac, so that means I'll be typing with my keyboard attached to the computer down here that you can't see. But the main difference if you were running it on your phone is that obviously you'd have an on-screen keyboard, and that would pop up here, just like the standard system keyboard. So you type into that just like you're typing a text message. So this is the text box that you type into. So you're basically just typing in what you want to say into the box, just like this. So I'm just typing with my keyboard.
Hello.
And then it speaks it. And I use this X button to clear the text. And then this is a setting in the settings menu that you can change, but I have it set up so that the X changes to this little left red arrow, and that brings the text back. So I feel like that's useful when I write something and then I play the audio and then I go to do the next thing. Like I clear it because I'm going to type the next thing, but then the person's like, oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that? And I can just be like, yes, I can. Just like that.
Hello.
And then I press that button to speak it. So when you're typing, I have it set up. Again, this is why it's so customizable. You can have it, I think, speak each letter. I don't think, to me, that's not so useful, but I like each word.
I, A, M, Millie.
Of course, if you mistype, it's just going to say whatever you mistype. So it makes me have some hilarious wrong words sometimes for mistyping. But anyways, yeah, so I like that where it speaks each word. You can have it once you get to the end of a sentence, like you write a period and then it's the end of the sentence and then it speaks the whole sentence. So whatever works for you. I like it speaking each word because then it kind of like keeps people's attention more. Otherwise, if I write a long sentence, then people might get, I don't know, their mind might wander, or they might like think I'm done speaking and interject. So yeah, the X clears, and then the speaker icon speaks. I feel like that's fairly intuitive.
Hello, I'm Millie.
And you can
Hello,
stop it. So that changes to a stop button. So you can just stop it in the middle.
Hello, I'm.
Or otherwise it just goes all the way to the end.
Hello, I'm Millie.
These tabs at the top, this is also something you can change in the settings. I think you can have them off. I've always had them to 3. You can change the amount of them. But you see I click the middle tab, and then this changed to what I had before. So I can go back to it. So if there's kind of multiple conversations going on in the group, I can think of something to say.
Oh, I had a thought about that.
Something like that. And then, yeah, so it's just, you can use it in different ways. It just allows you to have different phrases on the go, jump back to them. If you have a thought about something and the conversation just hasn't gotten to that point. The hardest thing about this I find is like in a traditional conversation flow. It's already hard being autistic, knowing when to conversation breaks and stuff are. And overall, this app has been very beneficial But that's been part of the learning curve, is just like figuring out when to type, and it takes a bit longer, and when to be able to jump into the conversation. But this does help to have kind of different things prepared when I have a thought and the conversation just isn't quite there yet. So these boxes here, as I was saying, are categories of the phrases. So these can be customized. You can change the name of them, the amount of them. You can change their colors. So I just kind of had them different shades of gray because I wanted to differentiate them from the phrase where I had colors. But you can make these colors as well. So usually whenever I have the app open, that's why I have common. These are the ones I use the most. And then some slightly less common phrases, and some specific situational ones. Like I have, there's just so many times from going to pick up food. So I just have
Hi, I am picking up a mobile order.
Mobile order. Anyways, so yeah, those are the categories of phrases. I even have the little video script one here. So that's what I use at the beginning of the video to just pre-save those phrases. If you had a specific thing like a doctor's appointment and you needed to just say specific things that were a little more complicated, like maybe you could write down that information ahead of time so you had it ready to go. I find when I'm really stressed and then I forget the most important things that I'm supposed to say. So that kind of thing really helps for that. And yeah, you can rearrange all these things, add or delete them, whatever works for you. So if I long press them, so you can see on the mouse, but same on the phone, just like press and hold, and then it comes up with an edit. That's another thing you can change in the settings. Everything's customizable, but you can see here I can edit the position, which is just what order it's in, and yeah, see, and all the colors. These ones, I guess, yeah, you can do color and the name, the text that shows up. But then these are even more. I'll show you in a sec, because you can have images and stuff. Yeah, I think all these, yeah, these boxes in the bottom, the top are gray by default, and then on the bottom it's white by default to differentiate it a bit. Because it's, again, categories, and these are the phrases. So completely customizable. Can also change the order again, the text that shows up, but these ones can also have the images and the colors. So I'm so visual, I really need to be like at a glance, like have things pulled out in terms of colors. I have them kind of related by color. So this is like variations on no and variations on yes. And, kind of yes, green, red, no. Whatever works for you. Emojis, I really like emojis for remembering things. Or just like doing fun ones like this too,
Yo. Yes.
I have them to direct speak, it's called. So when I press it, it just says it right away. But you can also set it to, if I press this, it'll just show the yes text, but it won't say it out loud right away. So I find it's dependent on the situation. Sometimes I'm in line for something, like at the pharmacy, and I need to text them, say something a little bit more complicated. So I want to pre-write that, so I don't want it to speak directly, or just preload one of the longer ones. Because the other nice thing is you can have longer text. So the text
Yes.
in the label are the same because it's short, but this is just a description, but the actual text is much longer.
I am using this AAC app to speak. Please be patient while I type to respond.
So this is just something I put in there as an explanation if people are confused about what I'm doing. I have this one in here if people just to explain that I can hear so they can talk normally, because people are so sweet, like they don't try like signing or writing stuff down, but I just want to be like, it's okay. I appreciate the effort, but if it's, more comfortable for you, you can just speak as you normally would.
I can hear you. You can speak as you normally would, and I will respond with this app.
Yeah, so just putting in useful little phrases like that. And again, I can long press and to edit. And it gives you a lot more options. So see, this shows the label is short, but the actual text is this. This is what's going to be spoken. And again, this is to pick the color of the button. So I have this like blue color for that one. This is, you can choose symbols, emojis. You can actually photo, if it's on your phone, take a photo. So the emoji selector, you can search emojis. So yeah, so customizable. And the cool thing is, I haven't actually used this much yet, but you can record audio for each one too. So yeah, it is useful for somebody, in my scenario where I can speak some of the time, but not all of the time. So, when I'm feeling better and I can speak like now, I could record the phrases as my own voice if I wanted to. I like it being the consistency of the same text to speech voice, but this is a really good option. Or if somebody's helping somebody, like somebody's a carer, like helper, supporting somebody, family member, I don't know if it makes sense. They could record their own voice. Anyways, again, it's just like more options to really customize it. And this gives you also the option here of changing what category it is in, and then what position it is in on the page as well. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the action buttons, it's called. So that's these 6 buttons. By default, it just shows these 6, or it might show more, but you just see these 6, right? I think this is one thing that I found confusing at first, and maybe there could be a little visual that the developers could put in just to kind of indicate to you that there's more here, because you wouldn't think right away that this scrolls, but it does. I'm just scrolling with my mouse, but with your finger on the phone, you would just, like you're scrolling a page, just scroll with your finger. And like now that I'm scrolling, it does show scroll bar here, but you don't see that at first, so might not realize that there's more settings. And there's a bunch of things here, and yeah, these might not all be immediately obvious at first, but that's why I'm going to go through them now. So we already went through the speak text icon and the clear X and recall text. So that recalls the last thing. And then when there is text there, it clears it. When the text is on the screen, again,
hello, I'm Millie.
Press that to speak it. This one, the blue X, kind of the back button kind of thing. Or yeah, it's like a delete button. It deletes one word at a time. So if you have a longer thing and you don't want to clear the whole thing, you can just go delete, 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 one word at a time. This one shows the text in full screen mode. So
no, thank you.
I'll just put some text in there. So that's what I was showing earlier. This is great to just be able to hold up a phone or hold up iPad, and then it'll be even bigger, just so the person you are speaking to is able to read it easier. It's just bigger text. And here you can do some things. I'll show you. These are some of the same action buttons that are on the other screen, but it just gives you some of the most useful ones here. So this is that button to play the sound. And the sound it plays is a doorbell chime. I think it's different on my phone, but you can customize that sound as well. So whatever makes sense. It's just the attention sound. If somebody's looking away, you just be, you're just like, hello, I'm trying to say something. And this is again the speak button, but it's also on this screen.
No, thank you.
This changes, might be like, what? What is the point of this? It's so that if you have the phone flat on the table or iPad and somebody's across from you, so imagine it's flat. So from the other person's perspective, it'll be the right side up. So when you're typing, like when I'm typing, I look at it like this. And then when I'm done typing, I turn it around. So a lot of these modes you could use just without the audio too. It's nice if you just want to be quiet. Two people could have these things, could go back and forth, And then this arrow on the screen just takes you back to the main screen. There's a few ways to add phrases. You can add that button. If you have something you already typed and you're like, oh, I say that all the time and I don't have a button for it yet, you could just take that text and then say save current phrase here. And then that pops up. I already have that one, so I'm going to say no. But if you just say yes, it'll add a new button there. And yeah, this also has the save current phrase. There's a few ways to do that. You can add a whole new category. So that's that plus button. The next one is the settings menu, which I'll go through all or most of the settings, the ones I feel like were the most important to me. But I'll go through that after getting through the rest of this screen. This green pencil is to edit the last phrase that was clicked on. So
I understand.
So yeah, it's another way to pull up the edit. I don't find that's probably one of the least used ones because I'd rather just long press, but that's a quick way to get at the other one. Yeah, so this is the attention sound bell that I showed from the other screen. That's on this screen, of course. That's also useful. This one here is I think that's pretty well known now. It's the universal, from your phone or anything. That's like, it's the share symbol. So I'm not going to click it because it's just going to pull up some personal info that I don't want to blur out. But that's going to pull it up, and you can share the text that's in the text box to your contacts or anything that comes up with a share menu in your phone, basically. This one, again, is the same as we showed in the full screen, where it flips the text upside down. So I find it more useful in the full screen mode because, well, it has two uses. In the full screen mode, you can show the text bigger, but the use here is that the other person across from me can be reading this text while I'm pressing the buttons still, while I can still see the buttons. So I think this one is especially useful on an iPad where it's just bigger, so the other person can read this. And I'll show later, but there's a way you can have it so there's two text box. So I can still see a normal text box for me, a smaller one that doesn't make me dizzy, and I can still type into. If I'm pressing these buttons, it's kind of fine because I don't have to read what I'm typing. But if you're typing, you want a box that you can read that's right way up, and then the other one that's upside down for the other person to read. So as I'm saying, this developer, I feel like they thought of every situation you could possibly need, and there's options for everything, which is amazing. This one, you can switch users. I only have the one user, default user, but I feel like this would be good if you have one iPad and your parent with multiple kids, or somebody like using this in a class or in a support group or that kind of thing, like somebody teaching how to use this. Then you can have different users with all the phrases customized and categories customized to the individual person's needs. So I think that's a great feature as well. This one is really handy. This allows me to drag and rearrange the phrases. There's multiple ways, again, to rearrange the phrases. You can change the position here. So I just move it to a different position, and it's basically based on 1, 2, 3, 4. But I just find that a little bit confusing because I have to count. So I'd rather just drag and drop them. But again, options, whatever people are comfortable with. It's nice to have different options. And here you can search through everything. So this is great. If this does help actually, because I forget sometimes which page I organize things onto. So I can just type search for them, like the mobile order one. Just type in a few letters. And then I don't even have to go back to the other screen. I can just quickly...
Hi, I am picking up a mobile order.
Just tap it from here. So I don't even have to go to the other screen. And quick edit as well. So yeah, that's the action buttons. I'll show you in a bit in the settings. You can also turn off the ones, like I might turn off this one because I don't really use it that much. And the users one, because I don't really use that one much either because I only have one user. So yeah, you can change which of these show up. So maybe it's not so overwhelming. Or if you're setting it up for somebody else, just change it to only the things they need. And then next I'm going to go and show you more about the settings. If you're just using the app for the first time, you kind of just need only this screen and you're ready to go. It has some preset phrases that are very useful. But yeah, once you get into it and you want to customize things a bit more, then you want the settings menu. And I'm going to go through that next. All right, so now I'm going to go through the settings menu. This might be something people hate to do, but I love it. I love going through every little bit of an application, and I'm very much an instructions reader. And one thing that annoys me in settings is if they some software, they just kind of name stuff in an obscure way, and then there's not even any good way to, there aren't good descriptions. And again, thank you to the developers of this program, Speech Assistant, that they added descriptions to things. So you don't see it here. This is just a quick overview of the settings. There's a huge amount of settings. But these are the categories. They give you access to a couple quick ones, and they're ones we already talked about, so it's nice that they have it right there. It'd be cool if in the future they had maybe a few more shortcut settings, but these are good ones. So the direct speak, so that's what I was saying before, where when you have this on and you press the button, it just speaks the word right away. And if you have that off, then you press the button and it'll just put the text into the box without speaking it right away. And this is the same, but with the added thing that it'll do the direct speak, but then it'll clear the text box right away. instead of leaving the word there. So that's just a really fast way to say something, clear box, and then it's ready for the next thing. I don't find that one's that useful for me because I like just leaving the word on there in case somebody mishears and I want to repeat it. And if I want to clear it, I can just quickly press the red X. And yeah, so maybe that's useful to me, but I just leave that one off and this one on generally. So general settings. Undo clear, I have that on. So if categories, oh yeah, again to start, I was saying I like that they have, this looks like a lot of text, and it is, but I think it's helpful that it has the settings and categories, and then the setting name, but then a nice description of what it does. I think these descriptions are really well done. So you can kind of figure this stuff out without having to flip through the instruction manual. So undo clear, with this option enabled, clearing the text box can be undone. So that allowed me to have that option to recall the text. So if that was off, then I wouldn't be able to recall the text. So I think that's just a good option to have on personally. So the next one I feel that's really useful is the tabs. So this is what I was showing before, the tabs above on top of the text box. And this is where you set either none, 2, 3, or 4. So I had those 3 tabs. That's where you set that one. Prevent screen auto lock. So I definitely have that one on my phone. Because if I'm in a conversation, I just have my phone out. If it's longer or I'm waiting for somebody to speak, usually my phone locks after a minute or something. So I want that on. So it's just while I'm using the app, it stops the screen from auto locking, which is really handy because then you don't have to, when it's your turn to speak, you don't want to have to quickly put in your password or even do a face unlock or reopen the app or anything like that. So I think that's a good one to look out for. And yeah, I think a lot of the other stuff on here's on these general settings is pretty self-explanatory. But I just wanted to point out here at the bottom, there's a quick link to the user manual. And it links you to the website, it shows asoft.nl. And I just wanted to show you the website quickly as well. So yeah, so this is asoft.nl. And this shows all the apps. Actually, at the bottom of the page, I'll show you, when you load the page, you're at the top here, has a quick link to the App Store. Gives you a bit of the features, some screenshots, some videos as well. And then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, this has all the apps. So iOS, Android. This is that version if you use a switch with your iPhone. That's the special version that you'd want to use. And then they have another app as well. So that's the general settings. So I'll go back, layout and colors. So there's tons of options. A lot of this is pretty self-explanatory as well, just like, sizes of buttons and text boxes and font styles and background colors. So if you have issues with vision, you can make it more contrasty, make things bigger. So again, very, very good for accessibility. Yeah, there's the fonts there, action button size, the spacing between the buttons. And another thing I'll point down here is you can set the color scheme. So you just choose them here, or you can make a personal one. So again, very customizable. This is where I talked about before, this category down here, action buttons. So you can customize the action buttons. So those symbols on the right where it just shows 6 at first and then you scroll down. I was saying before that you can customize which ones appear. So this is where you do that. So on layout and colors in the settings, go down to action buttons and main screen action buttons. So I have these all turned on. Some of them you can't turn off because they're essential, but the other ones you can turn them all off if you want to, or just turn them all individually on and off. So I was saying I didn't really like this one, so I'll just turn that off. And then on the main screen, it won't show that anymore. And when you're in the full screen text mode, you can also customize those. So there's less available because there's less space and less ones that you would need, but it does give you a few options to customize there. And you can actually have the action buttons on the left side of the screen. So if that's easier for you to use, if you're left-handed or right-handed, it's nice to be able to flip them back and forth. Down here in the other settings, this is where you turn on the extra rotated text box. So we can have that on. So that gives me on the main screen where I can type in a smaller box, and then it'll still have another box that's flipped for the other person across from me to look at. So that's handy when you're typing stuff, but the other person also wants to be able to read the text. And you can place the text box at the bottom of the screen as well. So it gives you an example of when you're using an Apple Pencil. So especially on the iPad, with the Apple Pencil, that's a useful option as well. And that's a lot of the layout and color settings. The next settings category is categories, phrases, and users. So this is where you can, at the top, categories. You can then edit categories. So you can quickly add a category, edit. So I could click these to delete them. I can quickly change the names, quickly change the color. I think this is the place to go, especially when you're initially setting it up. If you have lots of ideas, to me, this is faster to do a bunch of editing. Doing the long press on the main screen is great if you're just in the moment, want to clear something. Once you're done editing your categories, you just hit back. And again, I'll just point out a couple things here. This is the option under settings, long press categories. So that's where it gives you the option to long press the buttons. You might for yourself, if you don't want to accidentally hold a button too long and things pop up, or maybe if you're setting it up for somebody and you just want it to be simpler to use, or just whatever the use case is. There's different reasons to. I like the ability to long press, and for some people that's confusing, or they just accidentally do it, so they want to turn it off. This is where you can turn that on or off. There's the long press phrases as well, and this is where you can turn the button on and off. That save current phrase button that I showed earlier. Next up is speech recordings and sound. So this is great. This is like some of the most useful ones are. This is very important. So this is where you select your voice. And the nice thing about this app is that I assume it's doing something similar on Android, but um, the iOS, iPhone accessibility settings are very deep. And so the apps can connect to stuff that's already in there. So this app is using the voices that are already available on my iPhone, which is really nice. So it's nice that I can get used to one, and that can be kind of like my other voice, and then I can use that across multiple apps. I'll talk about that bit in the app comparison later, but that's my issue with some of the other apps and it being expensive because they have their own custom voices, I think. So this is where you choose your voice, and this is the Mac / like all the ones that are on Apple devices. On your device in your system settings, this is a separate thing outside the program, but that's where you can download other voices. It needs the files for them. But yeah, you can go through, you can listen to the different voices and then choose one that sounds like you feel comfortable with and that represents you. This gives you some examples of the selected voices. This is where, yeah, a lot of these options are really important to just how you want the app to feel. When you start it up, it'll just be a certain rate and a certain voice. But to make it useful to you, this is probably where you really want to do the most customization, I would say. If it's good to start, that's awesome. But I customized this a bit. So especially down here, the speech rate. So this is just literally how fast it'll speak. And ironically, I'm losing my voice now. You can even change the pitch. And going up back here, you can set the amount of pause between sentences. You can have it pause between words if you feel like it's speaking the words too fast, or you're just speaking to somebody who would benefit from it slowing down. That can help. So like accessibility for both people. And yeah, there's a few other little customization options. Those are the main ones. Oh yeah, and you can correct some of the pronunciation on things. I have to do that because words you use all the time that says wrong all the time. You can do some fixes in there. This is where you select the attention sound, so that little bell here. So it has a bunch of different options. So whatever you think is useful and maybe not too annoying, but will still get somebody's attention, that's where you choose that. This is amazing. This is one of the features of the app that I was looking for in different apps and couldn't find. It was so important to me. Like I've so much difficulty with phone calls. And so I was really looking for something where I could type and then have it speak into the phone. So the synthesized voice, the text-to-speech voice, I can type and the other person will hear that on the phone call. So that's where you turn that on. And this next one, this is also a handy one. So you can have it also always use the built-in speakers, even when headphones are connected. So I have that always turned on my phone because often when I'm out and about, I have headphones on and I don't want to have to Bluetooth disconnect the headphones, because if I type the thing, that really confused me with other apps because they didn't have this option. And before I turned this on, because especially if I'm stressed because it's a social situation, I'm out in public, and if I'm just trying to do something fast, that's an important one I feel like to have on, because sometimes I'd be like, why isn't the sound coming out of the speakers? Because the other person needs to hear it. And then like my headphones are around my neck, so I'm not hearing that it's coming out of the headphones. So that way I don't have to disconnect the headphones every time I want to say something to somebody. And it's very important if somebody comes up to you and wants to talk, and they're like, you take headphones off and you might not think to disconnect them from your phone. So that's a really important option as well. This is really important, the speak automatically section. This is where you can turn on speak characters. I never use that, but I could see it having its use cases. I like having it speaking word for word because, again, keeps people's attention. And then I can still have it speak each word as I'm typing, but then still press the speak button, the speaker button, and then it'll still say everything that's in the text box. So sometimes I'll do that so people can follow along word by word, but then they still get the whole sentence all at once at the end when I'm done typing. Or you can have it speak a sentence. So it goes based on punctuation. So when you type a period and then continue, it'll speak the sentence, and then you can still type the next sentence. So the last settings is the backup, import, and airdrop. And this is great that they have all these options. This is a little more technical, but it's great that it gives you so many options, I feel like, because I use this on multiple devices. The way I got this whole setup here on my Mac, because I had initially set up on my phone, is through this feature. So I won't go through all this if you're not very technical. There's the documentation, but maybe somebody can help you with this for getting it set up. But basically the idea is you can do backups, and it's great with your iPhone. You can have it straight to your iCloud, send it to an email. They're fairly small files because it's just settings files, and you can airdrop it, from my iPhone to my iPad, or if somebody else set up settings, somebody who's helping you, and they set up on their own iPad, they could airdrop it to your iPad. Once you do have it back up, you can restore from that backup. Say you were testing different settings and you messed it up and you want it with the way back it was back before. So you go to restore. And there's different options. You can make a complete backup, restore a complete backup. You can export the recordings, airdrop complete backup. And yeah, so it just gives you a ton of customization, again, in how you do these things, which I think is really helpful. And it works really well. I've just through my testing, I've done lots of backups and restores super fast. Never had any issues doing that at all. And yeah, that's the end of the settings. For the stuff that I didn't go over, I really recommend the documentation again. I'll show it again in the browser. On the website, well, it loads that PDF. You can click on, again, this is scrolled down to the bottom of the website, the main page where the apps are, and you can click on user manual, and then this is the user manual. So it's very extensive, as you can see, and that helped a lot making this video. So if there's stuff in the settings you don't understand, then you can look in here. And it gives you a lot of options for things that I haven't even used yet. Like there's all these great symbols. I like the emojis, but these are very useful as well for somebody who's just looking specifically for the visuals. So lastly, I just wanted to talk about why I love Speech Assistant, and especially compared to other apps I found. When I found Speech Assistant, it was just, that thing where it's something that so affects my life. It's my communication with people, right? And allowed me to communicate in a lot of situations where I wasn't able to before, and allowed me to mitigate a lot of anxiety and even trauma in some situations. And I was so highly motivated to use other apps, even though they had some deal breaker features, but I just wasn't finding the right one. And then somehow, I don't know, this one had been out for a long time, but somehow in my searching, maybe the other ones had just bigger marketing budgets or something. And and I didn't see this one right away. And I wish I had, because once I saw it, it had the settings I want. So I don't want to kind of shame the other apps. They're good apps, some of them, but I don't know. Some of them I don't know the motivation of. Like, so based on the other ones I tried, I see them as a couple different categories. There's the ones that are very medicalized. They're in the medical system. So they're really designed for a professional to use. And they're not functionally that much different from this, but they're very expensive. They're designed for parents to set up, or caregivers, and people that have funding. But where I live as an autistic adult, there really is not very much funding for anything at all. So having like a $500 app was just not possible. If it was the only thing, I mean, still to have a life-changing thing, still worth $500, but you know, sometimes it's just not possible to get that together. And especially if you don't know how beneficial it's going to be for you, that's hard. So that's more for the people who have funding and a professional set it up. So there's a bunch like that when you search for AAC apps. Like that's kind of what you'd search for. Text to speech, that kind of thing. And then there's some that I used that were just kind of overly simplistic and just more focused on style over substance. Like they were kind of pretty, the voices were really good quality, and I think that's where a lot of the money went. But again, they had a subscription fee, and this doesn't. Like I feel like this developer is really like, it's an absolute bargain. It's like how apps used to be, you know, like it's really in the user's favor. And I feel like it's really trying to help people because, you know, it's just a completely reasonable speech assistant. This one is a completely reasonable price of what it is. It isn't gouging you with subscriptions like so many things are. So some of the other apps had subscriptions, but you see how many settings Speech Assistant has, and then there were other apps that just had barely any customization. You know, even stuff that you really need, like custom phrases. Like it just had one screen of custom phrases, and it was limited to like 10 or 15. No categories, no adding images to things, changing the colors, like all that stuff. Just so basic, and it was so much more expensive. So that was very frustrating. And then some of them are just broken, something a programmer threw together, and are still kind of expensive. Like maybe as a similar price to Speech Assistant, but extremely limited features and buggy and broken. And those ones bother me because I feel like sometimes things feel like cashing in on disability, you know, or when people are vulnerable. So anyways, I found Speech Assistant and I was like, this is everything that I want and need, and I'm happy with the price. And yeah, so I did use a bunch of other apps quite extensively before this one. And yeah, I just loved the customization of this one. And as I said before, it's in depth, but it was easy to use right away. And I like that it uses the built-in iOS voices because I was already had a voice that I liked and I could continue using that one. So that's handy. And I'm guessing here, but I'm guessing that makes the cost of the app cheaper because they don't have to pay to license somebody else's synthesized speech technology. That's just what I'm guessing. I really haven't had too many issues with the app. Like the things I thought maybe could be improved, and maybe I'm missing something. Somebody knows how I could fix this, let me know. It's not even a fix. It might be just an operating system issue. It might not even be a program issue, but I find that I use the app and I feel like every time I open the app, then I have to turn up the volume. it's because I think the volume setting is persisting from app to app, and then another app is too loud and I turn it down. So I don't know if there's a way to have the volume setting for apps. Like, I want the volume setting to be the same every time I'm in Speech Assistant. And I usually want it to be loud because usually there's some kind of background noise and I'm just playing it out of my phone speaker. But that's, especially because I'm sound sensitive, usually way too loud in other things. So then I have to turn it down. And I feel like, so every time I'm coming back to Speech Assistant, for the first word I say, it's too quiet. And then I have to turn up the volume and then say the word again. Not a huge deal. If I remember before I'm going to type something, then I can just turn up the volume. But I almost always forget. So it'd be nice if that volume persisted. Very occasionally, I noticed that there's no sound coming from the app. And it can even be while I had it open for a while and then, so I'm not sure exactly how to recreate this one. It seems like a bit of a bug. Really doesn't happen very often at all, but sometimes I just am typing the words and then no sound is coming. And it's not because it's muted. I check that, but then I just have to restart the app and it's fine. And again, it doesn't happen very often. And again, like the toggle, I'd like a button, like an action button or something on the main screen to just quickly toggle between the direct speak mode.
Yes.
Like that, and the mode where I can type in words and it doesn't speak them. Because I kind of touched on this earlier, but sometimes I need to think about what I'm saying and I want to type it out and it's longer and I want to edit it. And I don't want it being saying all the words because then I'm thinking about that and I just want to concentrate on what I'm typing. Or I'm standing in line and I don't want people to think I'm talking to them because I'm just preparing. But then I want to quickly continue the conversation after I type that long thing and then it says it out loud. Then I want to continue having a conversation where it says the words as I'm typing them. So a quick toggle to toggle between those settings would be amazing. That'd be so good. As I was saying, it's very appropriate. I am losing
my voice.
I'm losing my voice. And that's another good use case for Speech Assistant is, doesn't have to be for people with disabilities, people with difficulties speaking. I didn't even talk about it. So in my case, it's selective mutism and other things going on. But it doesn't even have to be for that. If you're just sick, lost your voice, went to a concert, yelled too much, an app like that can be really useful. I think that's part of the reason everybody's so curious about it whenever I use it. And that's why I made this video. So thanks for watching. All right, so that was the demo of Speech Assistant. And yeah, I hope that was useful to you. And somebody else watching, or maybe somebody you know who has difficulty speaking, I hope this can be helpful to them. Like, again, I use this almost every day, and it's just really made such a difference in my life to how I communicate with people and how they respond to me in a really positive way. So I just wanted to be able to share that with everybody. So yeah, I hope it was helpful, and thanks so much for watching. Bye.